The front portal of my dwelling was flung open with such vehemence that the metal attachments emitted a distressed groan. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a typical Tuesday, and I was engaged in the task of folding freshly laundered garments in my sleeping quarters when I detected Marcus's enraged footfalls thundering through the residence as if a tempest were present. "Mother, where are you?" His voice reverberated throughout the house, imbued with a fury I hadn't encountered since his adolescent years. I left the shirts unattended on the bed and ventured into the corridor. My son, at the age of 42, stood in the primary reception area. His countenance was flushed and his hands were balled into fists. His emerald eyes, a trait inherited from his father, bore into me with a severity that sent a shiver down my spine. "Why did Chloe contact me in tears, alleging you altered the passcode on your card? She was at the provisions market and unable to settle for her provisions. You subjected her to public disgrace." I remained motionless in the entryway. 70 years of existence had instilled in me the discipline of maintaining equanimity during challenging circumstances, but this was distinct. This was my own offspring bellowing at me within my own abode. "Marcus, modulate your tone. We are cultivated individuals." My delivery was firm yet composed. And indeed, I modified the passcode on my card because it belongs to me. "Yours. Mother, we are kin. You cannot erect impediments whenever we require assistance." He advanced 2 paces toward me, and for the initial occasion in my life, a tremor of apprehension tightened my stomach. "The card is registered under my designation, Marcus. It represents my financial assets." "Your financial assets? Seriously, will you exhibit such avarice?" His pronouncements assailed me like projectiles. Chloe was merely procuring provisions for the household, sustenance, cleaning implements, ordinary accoutrements. I was aware of the falsity of his assertion. I had meticulously examined my transaction records the preceding week. $200 allocated to cosmetics, $300 to apparel, $500 at an upscale dining establishment. However, I elected to withhold this information for the moment. "Son, if you require funds for a specific purpose, we can engage in a rational discussion. Nevertheless, I will not relinquish my card without a passcode for unrestricted utilization." "Unrestricted utilization? You refer to my spouse as just anyone? You designate my wife as just anyone?" His vocal pitch ascended another octave. "She is your daughter-in-law. She is an integral part of this familial unit." I subsided into my preferred seating apparatus, the very same where I had nurtured Marcus 40 years prior. It was imperative that I maintain my self-possession, notwithstanding the trembling that permeated my entire being. Chloe is perpetually welcome in this domicile, but my charge card is not a communal utility. Marcus traversed the drawing room with the agitation of a confined predator. His footwear struck the polished timber flooring with each stride. He was perspiring despite the climate control. "I am incredulous at what I am hearing. You have exhibited boundless magnanimity throughout your existence, consistently aiding all. And now that your own kin require succor, you comport yourself as a parsimonious individual." That appellation inflicted more pain than any vocal outburst. "Parsimonious, I who raised this man single-handedly following his father's demise. I who toiled through double shifts for years to finance his academic pursuits. I who provided the initial capital for his dwelling. Marcus, I shall not permit you to address me in such a manner within my own residence." "Then furnish me with a logical justification. Why alter the passcode without notification to anyone?" I disengaged myself from the upholstered chair. My lumbar region protested, yet it was crucial that I stand for this discourse, for I had perused my account statements and discovered expenditures that I did not authorize, a substantial sum debited from my card without my sanction. All those expenditures were discussed with you. No, Marcus, they were not. He lapsed into silence, a novel occurrence since his arrival. His respiration was laboured, and the vascular structures in his neck stood out starkly against his dark complexion. Chloe informed me she consistently sought your approval before employing the card. Chloe is dissembling. The words escaped my lips prior to my ability to restrain them. The ensuing stillness was palpable, oppressive. Marcus regarded me as if I had just administered a physical blow. I shall not permit you to denigrate my wife. I am not denigrating her, I am articulating a verity. The truth is, you are exhibiting excessive apprehension. Perhaps it is time for another individual to manage your financial affairs. Those pronouncements struck me with the force of a lightning strike. My own progeny, suggesting I lacked the capacity to oversee my personal finances. My own progeny casting doubt upon my cognitive faculties. I believe it is imperative that you depart, Marcus. I am not departing until we resolve this matter. Present the new passcode immediately. No, son, I have stated no. I met his gaze directly. This is my domicile and my prerogative. Should Chloe require something, she may approach me directly. Marcus turned towards the exit but paused before stepping outside. His voice was icier than frozen water. This is not concluded. We shall converse again when you have recovered from your petulance. It is not petulance, Marcus. It is a determination. It is ill-considered, and you will lament it when you perceive the impact it has on our relationship. His words lingered in the atmosphere like a menace. My own progeny threatening to sever our familial connection if I did not grant him access to my financial resources. Are you issuing a threat? I am offering a cautionary statement. Chloe is profoundly disheartened by your demeanour. I am uncertain if she will wish to see you following this incident. Then that will be her volition. Marcus shook his head in a gesture of disdain. You comprehend? You are correct. This is your determination, and we shall establish our own. The door closed with a sharp, decisive thud. I found myself solitary in the parlour, my body convulsing. The potted flora on the veranda still required hydration, but my strength had been utterly depleted. I approached the window and observed Marcus's vehicle receding down the thoroughfare. The tyres screeched as he executed the turn with excessive velocity. 40 years of maternal devotion, and it had culminated in this, my sole offspring vociferating at me for safeguarding my own pecuniary assets. The quietude within the house felt altered subsequent to his departure. It was not the tranquil stillness of the morn, but something more substantial, more weighty, as if the very atmosphere had undergone a transformation. I reassumed my position in the upholstered chair and closed my eyes. The dialogue replayed in my mind incessantly, like a malfunctioning phonograph record. Marcus's utterances, his intonation, his collar, all for the sake of a passcode, all for the protection of my personal credit card. Yet, in the innermost recesses of my being, I understood that this was not genuinely about a passcode. It was about dominion. It was about established parameters. It was about the undeniable reality that for the first time in numerous years, I had uttered a refusal. The telephone rang once, then twice. I permitted the answering device to record the message. It was Chloe, her shrill voice piercing the silence of my abode. Sylvia, I am aware you are present. I trust you are gratified with your actions. Marcus is utterly despondent. I fail to comprehend your current comportment towards us. We are your kin. Click. The connection terminated. I inhaled deeply and opened my eyes. The timepiece adorning the wall indicated 3:30. The day had commenced ordinarily, with garments requiring folding and flora in need of watering. Now it felt as though I had traversed an entire week within a 2-hour span. I rose and proceeded to the culinary domain. I experienced hunger, but more significantly, I required an occupation for my hands. The preparation of sustenance had invariably served as my sanctuary during periods of distress. As I meticulously peeled potatoes for a late midday repast, my thoughts were consumed by Marcus's facial expression. The animosity in his gaze was not novel, but the frigidity was. It was as if he had perceived my true essence and concluded that I was no longer deserving of his esteem. However, that sunlit afternoon represented merely the inception of the ordeal I was destined to endure. For 30 years, my daily regimen had constituted my bulwark. I would awaken at 6 in the morning, prepare coffee, utilizing the identical apparatus my deceased spouse had bequeathed to me prior to his passing, and tend to the flora in the garden as the sun began its ascent. Warming the flagstones, it was an existence characterized by order, predictability, and security. Subsequent to Robert's interment, when Marcus was merely 12 years of age, I comprehended that structure was the sole element that preserved our sanity. Designated meal intervals, periods for academic study, mandated bedtime routines, unambiguous regulations, and firmly established boundaries. This, I surmised, was the prescribed methodology for nurturing a virtuous man. My 2-story residence had served as our sanctuary for 40 years. Robert acquired it when I was expectant with Marcus. Utilizing a mortgage we diligently amortized over 2 decades. Each chamber possessed a narrative. Every corner harbored cherished memories. The rear garden where Marcus took his inaugural steps. The kitchen where I concocted countless family feasts. The drawing room where every natal anniversary was celebrated. The local inhabitants recognized me as the individual who invariably allocated time for assistance. When Miss Carter fell ill, I provided her with sustenance for 2 months. When the Perez family's son required funds for his education, I extended a loan of $500 without levying interest. Generosity had been my method of honoring Robert's legacy. Marcus had consistently been a dutiful son, diligent in his studies, respectful and affectionate. Upon reaching the age of 25 and securing his inaugural professional engagement as an accountant, my pride was immense. My sacrifices had yielded their reward. For years, we functioned as an exemplary partnership. He managed my tax obligations. I prepared meals for him on Sundays. We maintained regular visitations. All equilibrium shifted upon his encounter with Chloe. The initial instance he introduced her to me, I was in the process of preparing macaroni and cheese in the kitchen. Marcus entered with a smile I hadn't witnessed since his adolescence, holding the hand of a slender, fair-haired woman with immaculately manicured fingernails and attire that surpassed my monthly earnings. "Mother, this is Chloe, the woman who occupies my heart." Chloe offered a smile, revealing perfectly white dentition, yet her gaze appraised me from head to toe, as if I were an impediment she intended to surmount. Her handshake was firm but devoid of warmth. "It is a privilege to make your acquaintance, Mrs. Johnson. Marcus speaks of you perpetually." Throughout the evening meal, Chloe extolled my culinary prowess, inquired about my garden, and displayed an avid interest in our ancestral photographic records. She appeared genuinely invested in acquainting herself with our lineage. Upon their departure that evening, I harbored the conviction that I had encountered a suitable daughter-in-law. The subsequent few visits were equally congenial. Chloe presented me with floral arrangements, assisted with dishwashing duties, and recounted amusing anecdotes regarding her professional endeavors at the exclusive apparel boutique situated downtown. Marcus evinced contentment, and that was my paramount concern. The matrimonial ceremony was understated yet refined. I contributed half of the expenditures without any solicitation. He was my sole offspring, my singular opportunity to fulfill the role of the bridegroom's mother. Chloe assumed charge of all selections: the bridal attire, the floral arrangements, the culinary selections, the musical accompaniment. My only responsibility was affixing my signature to the financial instruments and posing for photographic documentation. During the initial months of their marital union, the Sunday gatherings persisted. Marcus and Chloe would arrive for midday sustenance, sharing accounts of their nascent married existence, and I derived pleasure from his proximity. The domicile once again felt replete, reminiscent of Marcus's childhood. The inaugural solicitations commenced innocuously. "Sylvia, might we have the loan of some funds? Our financial resources are somewhat strained this month due to dwelling expenses." Chloe addressed me with a melodious, almost timid cadence. "It amounts to $200. We shall reimburse you by Friday." I provided the funds without hesitation. It was a modest sum of $200. I possessed ample reserves, and they were merely commencing their journey as a married couple. It was not uncommon for young individuals to encounter fiscal challenges in their nascent stages. Friday arrived, yet the remuneration did not. Instead, another appeal materialized. "Mother, might you extend a loan of an additional $300? Chloe requires attire for her employment, and my remuneration is not disbursed until the subsequent month." $300 followed by $500 and subsequently escalating amounts, perpetually accompanied by the identical assurance, "We shall reimburse you shortly." Perpetually supported by the identical justification, "Our financial situation is somewhat constrained this month." Following a period of 6 months, my aggregate loans approximated $5,000. When I broached the subject during a Sunday repast, Marcus exhibited discomfiture. "Mother, you are aware that we shall reimburse you. I fail to comprehend why you maintain such meticulous ledgers. We are family." "Indeed, we are family, son. However, $5,000 is a significant sum," Chloe interjected, employing her most captivating smile. "Sylvia, your assessment is accurate. We have been remiss in our repayment schedule. Might I propose we tender my credit card as security?" I harbored no desire for their charge card. I sought the recovery of my funds, but I acquiesced as I was uncertain how to engage in negotiation with my own kin. A week subsequent to this encounter, Chloe contacted me, her voice tinged with desperation. "Sylvia, I am facing an urgent predicament. My card has been invalidated, and I must procure medication for my mother. Might I borrow yours solely for today?" I acceded to her request, lending her my charge card. "Solely for a day," I rationalized, "solely for medicinal purposes." That evening, I consulted my transaction statement online, $150 disbursed at the pharmacy. "Excellent," I mused. However, additional charges were also present. $80 for cosmetic items, $200 for apparel, $30 at an esteemed dining establishment. Upon confronting Chloe the subsequent day, she offered an apology, her eyes brimming with tears. "I am profoundly regretful, Sylvia. I was at the retail complex and observed some remarkable markdowns, and I simply assumed it would be permissible. I shall reimburse you tomorrow." She failed to reimburse me on the morrow, nor in the subsequent week, nor in the ensuing month. Yet she persisted in requesting my charge card for perceived exigencies. The exigency for her sister's birthday celebration, the exigency for footwear required for a wedding, the exigency for Marcus's anniversary token, perpetually exigencies, perpetually urgent, perpetually accompanied by pledges of immediate reimbursement. After a year had elapsed, I had lost track of the cumulative financial depletion from my charge card. My accumulated savings were diminishing month after month, yet whenever I attempted to broach the subject, Marcus instilled in me a sense of guilt. "Mother, I do not comprehend why you are so ungenerous with us. You possess ample financial resources, and we are endeavoring to improve our circumstances." "Ungenerous?" That term became indelibly imprinted upon my consciousness for weeks. The Sunday visitations transformed into occasions fraught with tension. I would prepare the meal, they would partake, but the dialogues invariably gravitated towards financial matters, unpaid bills, unforeseen expenditures, missed opportunities due to financial constraints. Should we possess a superior automobile, I could secure a more advantageous professional engagement, Chloe would remark, manipulating her new mobile device. Were we to relocate to a more desirable locality, our quality of existence would be enhanced, Marcus would append, serving himself a third portion of my stew. I listened in contemplative silence, cognizant that their pronouncements constituted implicit solicitations for further financial assistance. One afternoon, while perusing my bank statements, a realization struck me with profound dread. In the preceding 6 months, I had expended more capital than I was deriving from my retirement annuity. My life's savings were being rapidly consumed to subsidize the extravagant lifestyle of Marcus and Chloe. I was unable to achieve slumber that night. I remained vigilant until dawn, meticulously calculating the extent of my financial losses, the amount they were indebted to me, and the remaining duration I could sustain this arrangement before facing fiscal ruin. For the initial instance in 30 years, my customary morning ritual failed to provide solace. The coffee possessed a bitter essence, the flora appeared desiccated, and the pervasive silence of my domicile felt akin to a judicial sentence. A fundamental alteration was imperative, yet I lacked the understanding of how to confront my own family without irrevocably fracturing the entirety of our shared foundation. The subsequent months transpired as a protracted period of subtle deception and substantial financial erosion. Each successive week presented a novel exigency. Each exigency necessitated the use of my charge card, and each utilization of said card resulted in expenditures that I had not sanctioned. Sylvia, I require your card to procure medication for Marcus. He is exhibiting symptoms of an infection and requires costly antibiotics, Chloe would articulate in a voice tinged with apprehension. Within an hour, my mobile device would receive notifications detailing purchases totaling $400 at apparel retailers. When I confronted her, she invariably proffered an explanation. I neglected to mention that I also required new undergarments. Mine are quite aged, and Marcus expresses his dissatisfaction. $400 for undergarments. It was a particularly advantageous promotion, 3 items for the price of 1. There was invariably a justification, an underlying rationale that rendered the supplementary expenditure essential, either intelligently devised or regrettably unavoidable. And I, who had nurtured an individual of integrity, found myself questioning my own perceptual abilities. The Sunday gatherings devolved into comprehensive financial assessments. Chloe would arrive armed with a conceptual compilation of forthcoming expenditures, necessitating my support. Marcus's cousin is to be married next month. We require new attire for the ceremony. Marcus's cousin! I possessed a more profound understanding of my son than anyone else. He was an only child. His first cousin was akin to a sister to him. Marcus would not assent without diverting his gaze from his plate. His silence had become an act of complicity. I require $500 for a gown and footwear, Chloe continued. I cannot present myself in an unkempt fashion. His family is of considerable social standing. $500 for a cousin's wedding, of which I was unaware, for the purpose of impressing individuals for whom I held no regard. However, when I attempted to decline, Marcus would intercede with his newly adopted strategy, emotional culpability. Mother, you fail to grasp the significance of this matter for us. We are endeavoring to cultivate our professional standing. His profession as an accountant at a mid-level firm did not hinge upon any social associations, yet I no longer possessed the faculty to engage in argumentation without sounding like a parsimonious elderly woman. One Thursday afternoon, while I was tending to the flora on the veranda, I received a communication from my financial institution. Mrs. Johnson, we are contacting you to confirm an unusual transaction on your credit card, a debit of $1,200 at an electronics emporium. Might you confirm if you authorize this? $1,200, an electronics establishment. I had not procured any electronic devices. At which establishment was this transaction conducted? At Tech World within the City Mall. Do you authorize this transaction? No, I do not authorize this transaction. I am rescinding this transaction. Kindly invalidate my card and dispatch a replacement within 5 business days. I concluded the call, my hands trembling. $1,200. Chloe had possessed my card since Tuesday to procure medication for her cephalalgia. The telephone rang 20 minutes thereafter. Sylvia, what transpired? My card has been invalidated, and I am in the midst of the grocery market with a fully laden cart. It is not your card, Chloe, it is my card, and I invalidated it due to the presence of unauthorized transactions. Unauthorized transactions? All the expenditures I incurred were essential. Were electronics essential? Silence emanated from the other end of the line. Then a nervous chuckle. Oh, that. Marcus required a new computer for his professional duties. His malfunctioned, and he could not await its repair. Why did you not consult with me prior to undertaking such a substantial acquisition? Because we were aware you would refuse. You perpetually devise justifications for withholding assistance when we require something truly significant. The accusation struck me with the force of a physical blow. I, who had been financially sustaining their ostentatious existence for 2 years, was now depicted as the villain for safeguarding my own monetary resources. Chloe, return to your dwelling. We shall converse upon your arrival. I cannot return home. My card is laden with provisions, and I am unable to effect payment. You return here and bring cash. I terminated the call. For the ensuing hour, my telephone incessantly rang. Chloe, Marcus, Chloe again. I permitted all incoming calls to be routed to the answering machine. I required time for contemplation. I retrieved all my bank statements from the preceding 6 months and meticulously arranged them upon the dining room table. The numerical data did not lie. In January, my savings totaled $45,000. By June, $26,000 had vanished within a 6-month interval. I scrutinized each individual transaction, every debit, every purchase. Upscale dining establishments, designer apparel, fragrant essences, footwear, handbags, cosmetic treatments, weekend excursions. Nothing that Chloe had procured with my funds constituted a fundamental necessity. The sound of the front portal opening drew me from my calculations. Marcus and Chloe entered my domicile without any overture, as if they were the proprietors. Mother, what occurred with the card? Marcus appeared more fatigued than irate. I invalidated it because I discovered expenditures that I did not authorize. Chloe subsided onto my sofa without invitation, her arms crossed in a demonstrative posture of defiance. Sylvia, all those expenditures were deliberated with you. You cannot simply invalidate the card whenever you experience forgetfulness. I did not experience forgetfulness, Chloe. A $1,200 computer represents a substantial sum to procure without consultation. I did consult you. I informed you Marquis required new equipment for his professional responsibilities. No, you did not. You informed me you required funds for medicinal purposes. Marcus sighed and assumed a seated position in the armchair opposite me. Mother, at times emergencies evolve. Indeed, she required medication, But upon my arrival at the electronics establishment, they were offering exceptional discounts. I could not forego the opportunity. Exceptional discounts of $1,200. The computer's standard cost is $2,000. It was an advantageous acquisition. I scrutinized him intently. My son, whom I had nurtured to embody honesty and responsibility, justifying an impulsive acquisition exceeding $1,000 as if it were the most commonplace occurrence. Marcus, that computer did not constitute an emergency. It was an extravagance. It is not an extravagance. It is an instrument for professional engagement. Then remunerate for it with your professional earnings. Chloe dramatically disengaged herself from the sofa. I anticipated you would react in this manner. You perpetually discover a means to induce us to feel culpability for seeking assistance. I am not inducing you to feel culpability. I merely desire that you accord my financial assets your respect. Your financial assets are perpetually your financial assets. We are family, Sylvia. Familial financial resources are for the collective kin. My financial assets are mine, Chloe. I toiled for 40 years to accumulate them. Marcus rose and commenced pacing the drawing room. Mother, we comprehend your perspective, but you must also apprehend ours. We are striving for professional advancement, to attain a superior existence. Your support is paramount for our progression. I have provided you with support for 2 years, Marcus. I have expended over $25,000 on your behalf. $25,000? Chloe's tone was one of offense. We haven't incurred that much. I gestured towards the documents spread across the table. The financial statements are readily available. Examine them yourself. Neither of them approached the table. Neither showed any inclination to confront the actual figures. The crux of the matter, Marcus elaborated, is our need for assurance that we can rely on you. Suspending the card without prior notification places us in profoundly embarrassing circumstances. Embarrassing? Indeed, Mother. Embarrassing. Do you comprehend Chloe's mortification when her card was rejected publicly at the supermarket? That's not merely her card. It represents the family's card. Those words echoed within my thoughts. The family card. My assets transmuted into shared property without my explicit permission. I believe I require a period for reflection. Reflection on what? Chloe's tone conveyed impatience. If you intend to continue extending the use of your card to us, naturally you will continue to provide it for our use. Marcus stated, genuinely taken aback, that this was even a question. We are your relations. I rose from my seat and moved towards the window. My garden was a stunning sight beneath the afternoon sun. The vibrant crimson bougainvillea were in full bloom. The pristine white geraniums were flourishing. The fuchsia bougainvillea was gracefully entwined up the fence. Every element I had nurtured with my own efforts was thriving. Why couldn't my bond with my son achieve a similar beauty? I wish for you to depart for the day, I stated without turning around. Mother, please, I need solitude. I heard their footsteps making their way to the exit. Before his departure, Marcus paused. We earnestly hope you will reconsider your stance. We do not desire this to negatively impact our connection. The door closed with a soft sound. This time there were no doors slammed shut, no voices raised in anger, only the quiet disintegration of my aspirations for an ideal family. Yet I was unaware that this marked merely the prelude to something far more distressing. For 3 days my residence was enveloped in an unsettling quietude. There were no solicitations from Marcus for financial assistance, no unexpected visits from Chloe presenting new crises. It was as though they had decided to grant me time to reevaluate my decision to block the card. On Friday morning, as I was savouring my coffee on the patio, I resolved to confront reality head-on. I had spent 2 years evading a thorough examination of my financial standing, placing blind faith in my family. It was time to ascertain the true extent of the damage. I settled at my computer and accessed my online banking portal. The figure displayed on the screen struck me with the force of a physical blow. 2 years prior, I possessed $45,000. In excess of $25,000 had vanished. I printed every statement from the preceding 24 months. The printer operated for 20 minutes, expelling page after page filled with numbers that narrated the chronicle of my own gullibility. I arranged them all on the dining room table and commenced the process of categorization. Sensible grocery expenditures, occasional justifiable restaurant meals, but then there was everything else. March, $500 at a jewelry establishment. I had purchased no jewelry. April, $700 on women's apparel. I do not wear $700 garments. May, $300 at a spa. I do not patronize spas. June, $1,000 on electronic devices. I possess minimal proficiency with my basic mobile phone. July, $800 on fragrances and cosmetics. My preferred scent costs $30 and lasts me 6 months. The list continued, spanning page after page. Each month contained purchases I had no recollection of authorizing, expenses on items I would never utilize, funds expended in locations I had never frequented. I retrieved my address book and dialed my bank's number. Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. How may I assist you? I require comprehensive details concerning all my credit card transactions over the past 2 years. Could you dispatch a complete report? Certainly. Is there a particular concern with your account? There are transactions that I do not recognize. I understand. We will dispatch the full report via certified mail within 3 business days. I also advise you to ascertain if anyone else has access to your card. Someone else? Chloe. After concluding the call, I proceeded to my bedroom and unlocked the safe where I kept my vital documents. My passport, the property deeds, insurance policies, and at the very bottom, something that sent a chill through me, a duplicate of my credit card. I retrieved it with unsteady hands. It was a clear photocopy of both sides of my card, complete with the 3-digit security code on the reverse. In the lower corner was a notation in Chloe's handwriting intended for emergencies. See, when had she made that copy? When had she been in my room without my awareness? Since when did she possess unrestricted access to my financial data? The telephone rang. It was Chloe. Sylvia, how are you? I have missed you these past few days. Her voice was mellifluous, reminiscent of the initial months following the wedding. It was the tone she adopted when she desired something. I am well, Chloe. It is pleasant to hear from you. By the way, I have a minor query. Do you recall your card's security number? I intend to make an online purchase and I do not have the card with me. The world seemed to halt. She possessed a duplicate of my card, and now she was inquiring about the security code as if it were a trivial matter, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Where is my card, Chloe? I have it, of course, as always. Did you not entrust it to me for safekeeping a few months ago for emergent situations? I did not recall giving her my card permanently. I remembered temporary loans, one-day favors, specific urgent needs. However, according to Chloe, I had granted her authorization to retain my card indefinitely. Chloe, I require you to return my card. Why? Has something untoward occurred? I need to have it with me. But Sylvia, how shall we manage unforeseen circumstances? We will have to inconvenience you every time we require something immediate. Yes, you will need to obtain my permission on each occasion. A prolonged silence emanated from the other end of the line. You know what? It would be best if we conversed in person. I am en route. No, Chloe, simply return my card. I am coming over. She reiterated and terminated the call. 20 minutes later, I heard Marcus's automobile pull into the driveway. This time they did not resort to shouting. They rang the doorbell as if they were ordinary guests. I opened the door and found Chloe alone, a smile gracing her lips as if nothing had transpired. "Hello, Sylvia. May I enter?" I permitted her entry, despite every instinct urging me to refuse. She settled onto the sofa and retrieved my credit card from her handbag. "Here is your card, but prior to relinquishing it, I believe we must converse." She placed it on the coffee table but did not slide it towards me. "Converse about what? About why you have suddenly lost faith in us? About why you are behaving as if we are strangers? About why you have undergone such a transformation?" "I have not changed, Chloe. I am merely safeguarding my funds." "Safeguarding your funds from what? From us? From your own family?" She rose and began to pace my living room, touching the framed photographs, adjusting the sofa cushions as if it were her own domicile. "Sylvia, you are aware that Marcus and I hold you in the highest regard. You comprehend that we would never undertake any action to cause you harm. However, recently it appears you perceive us as adversaries. I do not perceive you as adversaries. I simply wish to ascertain the precise allocation of my finances." "Precisely." She turned to face me with an expression of hurt. "Do you not have confidence in my discretion? After 2 years of marriage to your son, you still regard me as an outsider." "You are not an outsider, Chloe, but my money remains my property." She resumed her seat, closer to me this time. "Look, Sylvia, I comprehend your discomfort. It is natural. When a woman reaches a certain age, it is common for her to become more circumspect with her finances. A certain age." The phrase hung in the air, akin to a subtle intimidation. "What precisely do you imply by that?" "Nothing detrimental, naturally. It is simply that occasionally elder individuals tend to worry excessively over minor matters. They become somewhat apprehensive." "Apprehensive?" The identical term Marcus had employed. Apprehensive for desiring oversight of my own credit card. Apprehensive for suspecting your family of misappropriation. The words flowed from her lips with such fluidity that it took me a moment to process them. Misappropriation. She had uttered the word misappropriation. Who mentioned misappropriation? "You did, Sylvia, through your actions. Blocking the card, requesting exhaustive reports, treating us as if we were wrongdoers. What is that, if not an accusation of pilfering?" I rose from the sofa. I needed a physical distance from this discourse. "Chloe, I simply desire the return of my card." "Naturally, here it is." She finally pushed the card towards me. I accepted it and placed it in my blouse pocket. "But Sylvia," she continued in a subdued tone, "I trust you recognize that this will render matters more intricate for everyone involved. Each instance we encounter an unforeseen exigency, we will be obligated to disturb you. Each instance we require something immediate, you will be compelled to go to considerable lengths to assist us." "That is acceptable. I can manage that." "Are you certain? Because at times unforeseen exigencies arise at inopportune hours. Occasionally, we require items when you are asleep or when you are indisposed to leave your residence." Was she issuing a threat or merely outlining practical eventualities? "We shall address each scenario as it presents itself." Chloe nodded slowly. "Very well, if that is your preference," she stated, preparing to depart. "I only hope you do not come to regret it when you witness the complexity that will ensue." I accompanied her to the door. Before exiting, she turned back to me. "Do you realize what the most disheartening aspect of this entire affair is, Sylvia? That after 2 years of treating you as if you were my own mother, you now view me as a stranger. That causes considerable pain." Her eyes welled up with tears. For a fleeting moment I felt a pang of guilt. "Almost. I do not view you as a stranger, Chloe. I perceive you as my son's spouse, but not as family. You are indeed family, but my assets remain my own." She nodded sorrowfully and departed my residence. That night I was unable to sleep. Chloe's words replayed incessantly in my mind. Was I exhibiting excessive concern? Was it customary for a woman of 70 years of age to desire control over her own finances? Or was I truly devolving into an apprehensive elderly woman? I retrieved the photocopy of my card that I had discovered in my safe. I examined it under the illumination of my bedside lamp. It was a flawless, distinct, usable replica. Someone had meticulously planned this. And then the truth dawned upon me. I was not becoming apprehensive. I had been overly trusting. However, I remained oblivious to the fact that the worst was yet to unfold. On Monday morning, the detailed statement from my bank arrived via certified mail. 5 pages of transactions that chronicled in their entirety the narrative of how I had lost $25,000 over 2 years. Each expenditure was accompanied by a date, time, location, and monetary amount. It was akin to perusing the personal journal of a life that was not my own. I sat at the dining room table with a cup of coffee and began to scrutinize each entry. What I discovered rendered me breathless. There were transactions occurring at times when I was asleep, purchases from establishments I had never visited, expenditures in cities where I had never set foot, and most alarmingly, cash withdrawals from ATMs at 3 in the morning. How could someone have withdrawn funds at 3 in the morning if I was in my bed? I dialed Marcus's number. I required an explanation before my mind conjured scenarios I did not wish to entertain. Hello, Mother. How are you, Marcus? I need to ask you something significant. Certainly. What is it? My card has been utilized when I was not present. There was a considerable pause. What precisely do you mean? I mean its use without my knowledge while I was at home. Mother, you granted us permission to use the card for emergent needs. At times, emergent situations do not adhere to convenient hours. Funds were withdrawn from ATMs at 3 in the morning. Oh, that was on one occasion when we urgently required cash for a taxi after dining out. We were out late and had no currency on our person. One instance, the report indicates it occurred 6 times within the last 3 months. Mother, I am not going to maintain a meticulous log of every emergent situation to report back to you as if we were children. His tone had become defensive and impatient. Marcus, these are 6 withdrawals of $300 each, amounting to $1,800 in cash, and they were all for justifiable expenditures. I do not comprehend why you are abruptly treating us as if we were criminals. I am not treating you as criminals. I simply wish to understand how my funds were disbursed. You know what, Mother? I believe we require a serious discussion. Chloe and I are coming over. Marcus, The line went dead before I could complete my sentence. I was left holding the receiver, my stomach churning. I did not desire another confrontation, but I recognized its inevitability. While I awaited their arrival, I continued to review the report. I discovered something that made me feel physically unwell. 2 simultaneous transactions occurring in different locations. A purchase at an expensive dining establishment at the identical time as a purchase at a clothing boutique, located 12 miles apart. It was impossible for a single individual to have completed both of those transactions concurrently, which implied they had produced additional duplicates of my card. 40 minutes later, Marcus and Chloe entered my residence. This time, they did not ring the doorbell. They utilized the key I had given them for emergencies years prior. Mother, we must talk, Marcus stated before seating himself. Chloe appeared altered, less conciliatory and more resolute. She sat opposite me with her arms crossed. Sylvia, this is escalating beyond control, she began. Your suspicions, your accusations, your obsessive examination of every expenditure. It is not normal. It is not normal to wish to know how my own money is being spent. It is not normal to treat your family as if they are con artists. Marcus interjected. I placed the bank report on the table. Explain this to me. 2 purchases simultaneously in different locations. Marcus retrieved the papers and quickly reviewed them. What purchases? Friday, April 15th, a $200 purchase at the Grand Table restaurant at 8 in the evening. Simultaneously, a $300 purchase at Elegance Boutique. Chloe and Marcus exchanged a swift glance. Oh, that, Chloe remarked casually. I was at the restaurant, and Marcus was purchasing me a surprise gift at the boutique. We utilized both cards at the same time so that I would not discover the surprise. Both cards? Your card and my card, Marcus clarified. But my card was blocked that day, so I had to use yours for the gift as well. The explanation sounded rehearsed, excessively perfect. However, I had no means to prove they were fabricating the truth. How many duplicates of my card exist? Duplicates? Chloe appeared genuinely perplexed. What duplicates? I produced the photocopy I had found in my safe. This copy with your handwriting on it. Chloe took it and studied it as if she were encountering it for the first time. Oh yes, I created this copy several months ago so that I would have the numbers in case I misplaced the original card during an emergency. Is that incorrect? Did you create additional copies? No, of course not. Why would I? To make simultaneous purchases in disparate locations. Marcus rose from his chair. Mother, cease. We cannot endure these accusations any longer. They are not accusations, Marcus. They are valid inquiries regarding my own funds. They are accusations of fraud. You are accusing us of theft. I simply require explanations. Chloe also stood and approached me. Sylvia, do you comprehend the extent of our pain? Do you realize how it feels for your own mother-in-law to perceive you as a thief? Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they failed to move me. I simply desire the truth. The truth is you are becoming paranoid, Marcus declared loudly. The truth is that every time we require your assistance, you make us feel like criminals. The truth is, Chloe continued in a trembling voice, we are contemplating distancing ourselves from you until you seek professional assistance. Professional assistance? Yes, Mother. Marcus's demeanor softened slightly. I believe you ought to consult a physician. These personality shifts, this paranoia, this lack of trust in your own family, it is not typical. My personality has not undergone alteration. I am merely safeguarding my assets. Your personality has changed, Chloe insisted. Previously you were generous, affectionate. You placed your trust in us. Now you are suspicious, parsimonious. You treat us unkindly. Parsimonious for refusing to relinquish $25,000. It has not amounted to $25,000, Marcus protested. I retrieved all the bank statements and spread them out on the table. The figures are right here. Calculate it yourself. Neither of them even glanced at the documents. I will not participate in this obsession of yours with meticulously accounting for every favor you have bestowed upon us. Marcus stated, favors. $25,000 are favors. Yes, they are favors extended by a mother to her son. It is what ordinary families do. Ordinary families do not conceal duplicates of credit cards. Chloe picked up the photocopy from the table. Do you wish me to tear it up? Will that provide you with solace? She ripped the paper into small pieces and let them fall onto the table. There. Are you content now? How many other duplicates did you create? None. I did not create any other duplicates. Then explain the late-night withdrawals. I have already explained the late-night withdrawals. Marcus approached and placed his hand on my shoulder. Mother, this must cease. You are jeopardizing our familial bond over financial matters. I am not jeopardizing it. I am merely preserving it. Preserving it from what? From us. Your financial security is not imperiled with us, Chloe stated softly. Your financial security is imperiled by you. Do you realize how many individuals your age deplete all their savings through imprudent decisions? Imprudent decisions such as placing your trust in us. Imprudent decisions such as isolating yourself from your family due to paranoia. Marcus removed his hand from my shoulder. Mother, I shall present you with a proposal. Grant us one final opportunity to demonstrate that we are deserving of your confidence. Permit us access to your card for an additional month. If, at the conclusion of the month, you are not entirely satisfied with how we have managed the expenditures, we shall never solicit funds from you again. Chloe nodded enthusiastically. It is an excellent notion. We shall demonstrate that you can place your trust in us. I observed them both, my son and my daughter-in-law, requesting one final chance to prove their integrity. It sounded plausible. It sounded like something a conventional family would undertake. However, something in their gaze suggested it was not a request. It was a demand disguised as a favor. I require some time to contemplate. Time to contemplate what, Mother? Whether you place trust in your own family. Time to decide if I am making an error. Marcus sighed. Very well, take your time. However, in the interim, we too shall be taking some time. What does that signify? It signifies that until you decide to trust us once more, we shall maintain our distance. We do not wish to continue feeling like wrongdoers with every visit. They proceeded towards the door. Before departing, Chloe turned back. I hope that when you re-evaluate all of this, you will recognize that we are the sole entity you possess. Without family, wealth is meaningless. The door closed behind them, and I was left alone with the scattered papers on the table and the burden of a decision I did not know how to make. Was I a paranoid mother destroying her familial bond over money? Or was I an elderly woman being manipulated by her own family? I remained uncertain as to which of the two possibilities filled me with greater apprehension. For a week I heard nothing from Marcus or Chloe. The silence felt peculiar after 2 years of incessant phone calls, soliciting funds, unexpected visits, and urgent emergencies that necessitated my credit card. For the first time in a considerable period, my phone did not ring daily. Initially, the silence was a source of relief. I could tend to my plants without interruption, immerse myself in my book peacefully, and prepare meals for myself without the concern of preparing extra portions. However, after 5 days, it began to feel like a form of penance. Was this their objective? To isolate me until I capitulated to their demands. On Saturday morning, as I was organizing my wardrobe, I discovered something that caused me to pause. At the bottom of the last drawer, concealed within an old handkerchief, lay the pearl necklace that Robert had presented to me on our 10th anniversary. I had not worn it in years. I retrieved it and held it up to the light. The pearls remained exquisite, flawless and intact after so many years. I recalled the evening Robert fastened it around my neck for the very first time, his hands trembling slightly as he fumbled with the clasp. "For the most formidable woman I know," he had said, "so you never forget your inherent value." My value? When had I begun to question it? I resolved to adorn the necklace and depart my residence. I required fresh air. I needed to interact with people. I needed to be reminded that a world existed beyond this predicament with Marcus and Chloe. I made my way to the downtown farmers market, where I had procured vegetables for 20 years. Mr. Garcia, the proprietor of the fruit stall, greeted me with his characteristic crinkled smile. "Mrs. Johnson, it is exceptionally gratifying to see you. How have you been?" "I have been well, Mr. Garcia. Somewhat concerned lately, but I am managing." "Concerned about what? Your well-being? Your loved ones?" He gave a knowing nod. "Families can certainly be intricate. I've got 5 children and each one presents a unique challenge. Have you ever felt like your children viewed you solely as an ATM?" Mr. Garcia paused his arrangement of the oranges and met my gaze directly. "Mrs. Johnson, are you navigating a similar predicament?" I'm uncertain if I'm overreacting or if this is a genuine concern. Would you appreciate some wisdom from someone who has navigated 75 years of life?" I indicated my assent. When your own intuition signals that something is amiss, heed its warning. A mother's intuition is unfailingly accurate. His pronouncements resonated with me throughout my journey home. A mother's intuition is unfailingly accurate. That afternoon, as I was tending to the begonias, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" "Hello, son. I'm well. And you? We've been giving this a great deal of thought." Chloe and I discussed the entire situation and reached a consensus. A consensus on what? That perhaps you are justified in desiring greater oversight of your finances. That perhaps we have been overly nonchalant regarding monetary matters. I was taken aback. This response was entirely unexpected. "I'm pleased to hear that, Marcus. So we wish to propose an alternative arrangement. Instead of utilizing your card, we would prefer if you provided us with a predetermined sum each month, akin to an allowance. This way, you will have a precise understanding of your contributions, and we will know what financial resources we can depend on." "An allowance?" "Yes. An amount you deem appropriate for our expenditures. We were contemplating something in the vicinity of $1,500 monthly." $1,500 a month, $18,000 annually for expenditures they deemed essential. "Marcus, $1,500 is a significant sum. It's less than our average spending over the past few months. We thought it would be a method to reduce expenditures and grant you more control. Why do you require $1,500 each month if you are both employed? Because we are endeavoring to advance professionally. We require suitable attire for work. We need to uphold a certain social standing. We must invest in our future, and our salaries are insufficient for those aims. Mum, our salaries barely cover our rent and basic sustenance. Everything else necessitates supplementary assistance. Then perhaps you should curtail your spending." A prolonged silence ensued. "Do you wish for us to live in poverty? I wish for you to live within your financial capacity. Our capacity includes having a mother who can facilitate our growth. I fail to comprehend why you abruptly expect us to struggle independently when you possess the means to alleviate our burdens. Because those are not my burdens, Marcus. They are yours. We are family. My life and your life are intertwined." His tone had shifted. The conversation was reverting to familiar patterns. "Marcus, I will not be providing you with $1,500 monthly." "What amount then? 1,000? I'm unsure. I need to deliberate on this. Ponder it, Mum. We have been awaiting your response for a week, and I have been managing finances with abandon for 2 years. I require time to determine my course of action. You know what? Forget it. Disregard the entire proposal." "Marcus, no. Mom, we will not grovel for your assistance any longer." Chloe was correct. There are alternative avenues. What alternative avenues? Options that do not involve pleading with my own mother for funds. He disconnected the call before I could reply. That evening I found myself unable to sleep. What did he imply by alternative avenues? What was Marcus alluding to? On Monday morning, the situation became clear. I was having breakfast when there was a knock at the door. A young man in a suit carrying a briefcase stood there. "Mrs. Sylvia Johnson?" "Yes, that is I. I am Mr. Roberts, representing the law firm of Hayes & Associates. Your son, Marcus Johnson, has engaged our services to assess your mental and financial competence." I felt as though the ground had vanished beneath me. "Excuse me, your son is concerned about your mental state. According to his account, you have exhibited indications of paranoia, disorientation, and impulsive decision-making. He is contemplating initiating legal proceedings to secure guardianship over your financial assets." "Guardianship? Yes, ma'am. A legal process wherein a judge determines your capacity to manage your own financial affairs or if an alternative individual is required to oversee them. Someone such as your son. Precisely. I sank into the armchair, my legs no longer capable of supporting me. What actions must I take to defend myself? Initially, I advise engaging legal counsel. Secondly, you should undergo medical evaluations to substantiate your mental acuity. Thirdly, you should compile evidence demonstrating your responsible management of financial matters. What is the time frame? Should they decide to proceed formally, you will receive an official summons with a 30-day period to respond. The gentleman departed, leaving me to confront the stark reality that my own son was contemplating the legal acquisition of my wealth. My own son. That afternoon, I contacted my neighbor, Alma Davis. I had known her for 15 years, yet our acquaintance had never evolved into a close friendship. Nevertheless, I felt compelled to confide in someone, and she had always struck me as a sensible individual. Elma, could you come over? I require some counsel. Of course, Sylvia. I shall be there momentarily. Upon her arrival, I divulged everything. The loans that had become perpetual, the credit card they had failed to return, the unauthorized transactions, the threat of legal guardianship, the entirety of it. Elma listened without interruption, offering occasional nods of comprehension, devoid of judgment. Do you know my assessment, Sylvia? What is it? I believe your son and his wife are systematically exploiting you. And now that you are asserting your rights, they are resorting to more assertive measures. You believe I am being manipulated? I am convinced of it. And I am certain this is not the initial instance of such a scenario befalling an elder woman. What course of action do you recommend? Engage in a resolute defense utilizing every available legal recourse. Do not permit them to seize your assets or your dignity. What if this results in estrangement from my son? Elma clasped my hands. Sylvia, you have already lost your son. The Marcus you raised, the one who held you in esteem, the one who appreciated your sacrifices. That Marcus is no longer present. What you face now is an individual who covets your wealth and is prepared to declare you incapacitated to acquire it. Her words struck me deeply, yet they also brought a sense of liberation. She spoke the truth. My son was indeed gone. Do you happen to know a competent attorney? I know the preeminent lawyer in the city for such cases. His name is Vincent Harris. He specializes in representing senior citizens against familial financial exploitation. Vincent Harris. The name became indelibly etched in my mind. Could you provide me with his contact information? I shall do better. I will accompany you to his office tomorrow. That night, for the first time in weeks, I experienced restful sleep, not due to the dissolution of my troubles, but because I had finally resolved to stand my ground. My son had prioritized financial gain over me. Now I would prioritize my self-respect over him. On Tuesday morning, Alma accompanied me to the downtown law offices. Vincent Harris proved to be a man in his 60s, with distinguished grey hair, perceptive eyes, and a tranquil demeanor that instantly instilled confidence. Mrs. Johnson, please recount the events precisely as they have transpired, he stated, diligently taking notes on a yellow legal pad. I narrated the entire sequence of events from the outset. The loans that were never repaid, the credit card utilized without my knowledge, the unauthorized duplicates, the late-night cash withdrawals, and ultimately, the threat of legal guardianship. Do you possess any documentation pertaining to these transactions? I have all the bank statements and the detailed report I procured last week. Excellent. Did you ever affix your signature to any document granting your son or his wife perpetual authorization to utilize your card? Never. Did you ever grant them permission to create duplicates of your card? Never. Vincent ceased writing and directed his gaze squarely at me. Mrs. Johnson, the situation you are describing constitutes familial financial abuse. It is a criminal offence, and we also possess civil avenues for the recovery of your funds. How prevalent is this? More prevalent than individuals might assume. The most frequent targets are elderly women possessing savings who place their trust in family members who gradually appropriate their assets. What is our course of action? Firstly, we shall safeguard you against the guardianship lawsuit. Secondly, we will meticulously document the financial abuse. Thirdly, we will effect the recovery of your assets. And fourthly, we will ensure this does not recur. A profound sense of relief washed over me. For the first time in months, I finally had an ally who comprehended the gravity of the situation. What will be the total cost? My fees amount to $3,000, but I view this as an investment toward recovering $25,000. I finalized the agreement that very day. Over the subsequent week, Vincent and his team worked with meticulous precision. They requested security camera footage from the establishments where my card had been utilized. They traced the internet protocol addresses associated with the online purchases and documented each unauthorized transaction. The findings exceeded my worst apprehensions. Mrs. Johnson, Vincent informed me during our second consultation, not only did they employ your card without authorization, but they also established fictitious credit accounts utilizing your personal identification. Fictitious credit accounts? Yes. 3 additional credit cards, all registered in your name but dispatched to your son's residence. The billing statements indicate they have accrued nearly $15,000 in supplementary debt. $15,000 in debt of which I was unaware. My heart began to race. How is this conceivable? They had access to all your personal data, your social security number, your birth date, your banking information. With that information, it is relatively straightforward to apply for credit online. Does this imply I am liable for that debt? Not necessarily. We will contest all those accounts as instances of identity theft, but we must act swiftly. That afternoon, Vincent accompanied me to file fraud reports with the 3 credit bureaus. We also submitted a criminal complaint for identity theft and financial abuse. What is the subsequent course of events? Your son will receive notification that you are disputing the debts and have initiated criminal proceedings. They will likely contact you to attempt a resolution. A resolution? They will endeavor to persuade you to withdraw the charges in exchange for promises of remuneration. Do not agree to anything without consulting me first. He was correct. On Friday evening, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Mum, what have you done? His voice conveyed a tone of apprehension and desperation. I have secured my financial assets, son. We have received a court summons. We are being accused of fraud because you committed fraud. We did not commit fraud. We are your family. Everything we did was with your knowledge. No, Marcus, it was not with my knowledge. Mum, you must withdraw these charges. They will devastate our lives. You have already devastated mine. Please, we will repay all the money. Just withdraw the charges. With what funds will you repay me $25,000? We will procure the money. We will secure a loan. We will liquidate assets, whatever it takes. And the $15,000 in credit cards you established in my name. A profound silence emanated from the other end of the line. How are you aware of those cards? Because I retained legal representation, Marcus. Because I investigated your actual actions, Mum. Those cards were intended for genuine emergencies. Chloe required costly medical treatments at apparel boutiques and upscale dining establishments. Not all the expenditures were frivolous. All the expenditures were fraudulent. Marcus began to weep. It was the first time I had heard him cry since he was a child. Mum, please, we are your family. You cannot destroy us for financial gain. You have already destroyed me for financial gain. We will reimburse everything. Simply grant me one opportunity. You have already had 2 years of opportunities. One more opportunity, please. No, Marcus, then this is war. His voice underwent a complete transformation. The tears gave way to an icy resolve. War. If you do not withdraw the charges, we shall proceed with the guardianship lawsuit. We will demonstrate that your mental faculties are deteriorating. We will secure witnesses who attest to your erratic behavior. What witnesses? Neighbors, shopkeepers, individuals who have observed your paranoid tendencies. My behavior is not paranoid, it is defensive. A judge will render a verdict on that. He terminated the call. The following day, the genuine conflict commenced. Initially, there were the phone calls. Marcus, Chloe, unidentified numbers, all leaving messages on my answering machine. Some imploring, others threatening, all attempting to persuade me to drop the charges. Then the visits began. Marcus would appear at various times of the day, knocking insistently, shouting from the street that he merely wished to converse. Chloe dispatched her companions to my doorstep with fabricated pretexts. One afternoon, as I was watering the flora on the patio, I overheard voices on the street. 3 women I did not recognize were standing before my residence, conversing loudly. That is the dwelling of the lady who is accusing her own son of larceny. How mortifying! Occasionally, children encounter financial difficulties and require assistance. At that age, it is typical for them to develop a distrustful disposition. My grandmother also exhibited such tendencies before she did not complete the sentence, but the implication was evident. They were disseminating rumors regarding my mental state. I contacted Vincent. They are acting precisely as I anticipated, he informed me. They are attempting to construct a narrative of your mental incompetence. It is a customary tactic in such cases. What is our strategy? Document everything, record the conversations, capture photographic evidence of the unwelcome intrusions, maintain a log of all instances of harassment. We shall leverage this information against them. That night, my vehicle was vandalized with a key. 2 words emblazoned in red spray paint. Crazy miser. The message was unambiguous. While I pursued legal recourse, they would engage in psychological warfare. I telephoned Elma to apprise her of the unfolding events. Sylvia, you cannot remain in that residence alone. Come and stay with me until this matter is resolved. I refuse to be driven from my own home. In that case, I shall reside with you. That night, Elma slept on my sofa. Her presence offered solace, yet it also engendered a sense of melancholy. At 70 years of age, I required protection from my own kin. At 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. I answered, assuming it might be an emergency. I trust you are content, Chloe's voice stated, its clarity distorted as if she was speaking through a muffled cloth. I hope you find satisfaction in dismantling a family for sordid earnings. Sordid earnings? The money your husband acquired through illicit ventures? Do you believe we are unaware of the true origin of your savings? What are you implying? Inquire with the neighborhood residents about the character of your husband. Inquire about their perceptions of his nocturnal enterprises. She disconnected before I could respond. Robert had been an accountant. He had been employed at the same firm for 20 years. He had no nocturnal enterprises or illicit earnings. However, I now comprehended the extent to which they were prepared to go to tarnish my reputation. They were attacking the memory of my deceased husband. Elma, I whispered into the darkness, I suspect this situation will worsen before it improves. I am aware, she responded from the sofa, but we shall face this together. For the first time in months, I did not feel entirely isolated. I had Elma, I had Vincent, and I had the truth on my side. However, I remained uncertain if these elements would suffice against the desperation of individuals who had lost access to my financial resources and were willing to resort to any means to reclaim them. The court hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday in March. In the 2 weeks leading up to it, Vincent and his team laboured assiduously to prepare my defence. There were documents, witness testimonies, forensic evidence of the fraudulent transactions, and a discovery that surprised me: other victims. Mrs. Johnson, your case has precipitated a broader inquiry, Vincent elucidated in his office. We have identified 3 analogous situations within the past 2 years. Families employing identical tactics: gradual financial exploitation, followed by guardianship lawsuits when the victim asserts her defense. Your courage in reporting this is aiding other individuals. On the day of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse accompanied by Vincent and Elma. In the courtroom, Marcus and Chloe awaited with their legal counsel, a young gentleman in an expensive suit who continuously reviewed documents. When our eyes met, Marcus immediately averted his gaze. Chloe regarded me with a frigidity that sent a shiver down my spine. The judge, a man in his 50s with a stern countenance, perused all the submitted documents before commencing. The hearing spanned 3 hours. Vincent meticulously presented all the evidence: the $25,000 in unauthorized expenditures the 3 credit cards fraudulently established, the late-night cash withdrawals, the unauthorized duplicates of my card. Each transaction was meticulously documented with its date, time, location, and monetary value. Marcus's attorney attempted to argue that all transactions had been verbally sanctioned, that I had granted permission to utilize my financial information, and that my lawsuit stemmed from age-related cognitive impairment. He presented as evidence sworn statements from 2 individuals who purportedly had observed changes in my demeanor. However, Vincent had prepared a devastating revelation. He had secured security camera footage from several establishments where my card had been employed. The visual evidence unequivocally depicted Chloe utilizing my card while I was purportedly at home. He also presented telephone records demonstrating that during some of those purchases, I had been engaged in conversations via my home landline, rendering my presence at those locations impossible. The most irrefutable evidence was the testimony of my family physician, Dr. Paul Rodriguez, who had been my medical attendant for 15 years. He testified that my medical and neurological examinations over the past 2 years indicated entirely normal cognitive function for my age, with no indications of cognitive decline, dementia, or any condition that could impair my capacity for financial decision-making. When the judge requested my testimony, I rose with trembling legs but a steady voice. I elaborated on how it had all commenced with minor loans that were never repaid, how they had progressively gained dominion over my credit card, how they had made duplicates without my authorization, and how, when I finally endeavored to safeguard my finances, they threatened legal control over my assets. Mrs. Johnson, the judge inquired, at any point did you explicitly authorize your son or his wife to establish credit accounts in your name? Never, Your Honor. I never granted authorization for any additional credit accounts. Were you aware of the existence of these accounts prior to retaining your attorney? I had no knowledge of their existence. I discovered the $15,000 in debt when Mr. Harris investigated my financial circumstances. When Marcus testified, his narrative shifted multiple times. Initially, he asserted that I had verbally authorized everything. Subsequently, he admitted that some purchases had been impulsive decisions. Finally, he acknowledged that the additional credit accounts had been opened without my direct knowledge, but maintained it was for legitimate familial expenses. The judge interrupted him coldly. Mr. Johnson, irrespective of your intentions, establishing credit accounts utilizing another person's personal information without their explicit authorization constitutes identity fraud, a federal offense. The judge's ruling was unequivocal and definitive. Not only did he entirely dismiss the guardianship lawsuit, but he mandated that Marcus and Chloe immediately reimburse the documented $25,000, inclusive of interest and legal disbursements. Furthermore, he ordered the immediate cancellation of the 3 fraudulent accounts and the rectification of this debt from my credit record. As if this were not sufficient, he issued a restraining order prohibiting direct contact with me for a period of 1 year, stipulating that any future communication must be conducted through legal representatives. The documented conduct in this proceeding, the judge declared, represents a systematic pattern of familial financial abuse. The evidence unequivocally demonstrates that Mrs. Johnson possesses complete mental competence and that her actions to secure her financial assets were appropriate and necessary. The guardianship lawsuit not only lacks merit, but appears to have been initiated as a tactic of intimidation to perpetuate unauthorized access to the plaintiff's financial resources. As we exited the courtroom, Vincent explained that the process of recovering the funds might take several months, but that the court order legally bound them to commence payments immediately. Failure to comply would expose them to further charges for contempt of court. That evening, in the tranquility of my residence, I settled into my favorite armchair with a cup of tea and gazed out the window at my garden. The crimson begonias were blooming with exquisite beauty. The white geraniums flourished vibrantly. Every endeavor I'd nurtured with affection was still flourishing. For the first time in 2 years, my finances were secure. My residence was safeguarded. My future rested entirely within my control. Yet, alongside the profound sense of relief, a deep melancholy settled in. I had emerged victorious from the legal contention. My funds had been restored. My self-respect had been reclaimed. However, I had irrevocably lost the son I had raised, the Marcus I had nursed as an infant in that very armchair, the young man I had steadfastly supported for years. That version of Marcus was permanently gone, supplanted by an individual who had readily sought to deem me mentally unsound to access my assets. Justice had prevailed, but my maternal heart remained shattered. 6 months following the adjudication, my existence had found a new equilibrium. The disbursements mandated by the judge arrived with unwavering punctuality each month, and my bank balance steadily improved. More importantly, my peace of mind had been reacquired. Vincent diligently ensured that Marcus and Chloe adhered to the court's directives. Over the course of those demanding months of legal proceedings, our exchanges had transcended mere professional discourse. I learned that Vincent had been a widower for 5 years, that he had 3 grown children residing in different locales, and that he shared my passion for horticulture. "How do you cultivate such magnificent bougainvillea?" he inquired one afternoon as we reviewed the latest financial documents on my patio. "Patience and unwavering dedication," I responded. Much like anything truly valuable in life, his visits had grown more frequent and less formal. He would fabricate pretexts concerning document reviews, but would then linger to share coffee and engage in discussions about literature, current affairs, recollections of our respective marriages, and aspirations for the future. He made me feel esteemed, not for my financial standing, but for my intrinsic self. One Sunday afternoon in October, while we were enjoying tea and homemade cookies, Vincent clasped my hand. "Sylvia," he began, "these past months with you have been the most joyful I've experienced since losing my wife. You've rekindled my hope that life can still be beautiful at our age, and you've restored my faith that good individuals exist who have no intention of exploiting me. Does it seem preposterous that a 62-year-old attorney is contemplating falling in love with his 70-year-old client? It seems wonderful that a 70-year-old woman is experiencing flutterings in her stomach like a schoolgirl." We exchanged vows in a small, intimate ceremony 6 months later. Only the 2 of us were present, with Elma standing as my witness and Vincent's brother serving as his, along with the judge who officiated our union. It was perfection in its understated elegance. Vincent relocated into my home, bringing his legal texts, his plants, and a serene contentment that permeated every space. Together, we transformed Robert's study into our shared library. Together, we introduced new floral varieties to the garden. Together, we established routines that brought us both happiness. In the afternoons, while I prepared meals, Vincent dedicated himself to pro bono cases, assisting other elderly individuals who were victims of familial financial exploitation. This had become his area of expertise following my situation, and he found profound fulfillment in protecting vulnerable individuals. Every case I win is a victory for human dignity, he would often tell me. Marcus attempted to re-establish contact once 6 months after my marriage to Vincent. He telephoned one afternoon. His voice sounded weary and defeated. "Mum, I know I shouldn't be calling you, but I needed to tell you something." "Marcus, you know you cannot speak to me directly." "I just want to say I'm sorry." "Chloe and I are divorcing. She left with another man, taking everything we managed to salvage after the lawsuit. I'm left with no money, no wife, and no mother following her plans." A pang of maternal sorrow pierced me, but I was no longer the same person who had been manipulated for 2 years. "Marcus, I regret that you are enduring this, but decisions carry consequences. Can you ever forgive me?" "I have already forgiven you, son, but forgiveness does not equate to forgetting, and it most certainly does not mean reverting to our previous state. We might be capable of establishing some form of relationship in the future, perhaps when you have genuinely demonstrated your transformation, not merely that you are in need of financial assistance again." That was the final instance of our communication. I later learned through others that Marcus had relocated to a different city, secured a modest position, and was attempting to reconstruct his life from the ground up. A part of me, the mother I will perpetually remain, harbors the hope that one day he will find a way to embody the man I believed I had raised. However, I no longer passively await such a possibility. I no longer suspend my own life in anticipation of someone else's change. I now share a fulfilling existence with Vincent. We embark on travels. We engage in shared reading. We tend to our garden. We host his children when they visit the area. We have cultivated a partnership founded on mutual respect, genuine affection, and the simple delight of sharing the twilight years of our lives with someone who cherishes us. At 72 years of age, I discovered that it is never too late to champion one's dignity. It is never too late to assert a refusal. It is never too late to commence anew. I forfeited a substantial sum of money and my sole child in the process. Yet I gained something of immeasurable worth, my liberty, my self-regard, and the prospect of genuine love at the most unexpected juncture of my life. Each morning I awaken in my own home, my assets secure in my own account, beside a man who cherishes me for who I am, not for what I possess. It is a triumph more gratifying than I had ever conceived possible. Life has imparted the lesson that sometimes, to attain everything, one must first be willing to relinquish everything. Did you appreciate my narrative? And from which city are you listening? Let's connect in the comments section. If you found the story engaging, you can offer your support by sending a super thanks, enabling me to continue bringing you more such narratives. My sincere gratitude for your gracious support. I eagerly anticipate your feedback on the story. On your screen, you can view 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. My channel offers a wealth of additional content. Please remember to subscribe. I look forward to sharing another life story with you soon.